I never thought my life would implode like this. One minute, I'm microwaving leftovers. The next, I'm staring into the abyss. It all started with Jenny, my wife, or I guess, my ex-wife now. Cheating wasn't the half of it. She was knee-deep in something seriously twisted. I'm 34, a suit-and-tie guy crunching numbers at some corporate gig. Jenny, 32, used to be a nurse. A good one, people said. Then she decided to be a stay-at-home mom. We had the picket fence, the whole deal. Or so I thought. Then bam, I found her secret and my world cracked in half. It was a Tuesday, I think. A nothing special kind of night. Jenny said she was going out with the girls, leaving me home alone. Bored, I fired up our computer, the one she used for Pinterest recipes and whatever. I opened the browser and there it was, right in the search history. Adult parties, swinger events, couples gatherings. My stomach did a flip-flop. I dug deeper, found a hidden social media account. Page after page of these, well, parties. Not your average backyard barbecues. Wild, drug-fueled orgies, more like it. And Jenny, she wasn't just watching from the sidelines. She was front and center. Photos, videos. Jesus. Jenny, dressed in practically nothing, laughing with these strangers doing things I can't even bring myself to say out loud. But it got worse. The worst part. Her ex-boyfriend, Owen, was all over the place. Owen, the 35-year-old ex-Marine, now some kind of corporate drone. Turns out, he wasn't just there, he was running the show. He was the one setting up these parties, making them happen. Jenny and Owen, they weren't just old flames. They were still together. Right under my damn nose. The air left my lungs. My wife, the mother of my child, living a double life. A complete, crazy double life. I wanted to scream, confront her right then and there, rip her from that online world. But I didn't. A cold feeling washed over me, a strange calm. I wasn't going to scream. I was going to make her pay. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I was going to make sure she regretted the day she even thought of betraying me. This wasn't just about her sleeping with someone else. It was about the lies, the deception, the sheer audacity of it all. She'd been living a lie and I'd been too blind, too trusting to see it. Now the blinders were off and I saw everything. Every detail, every lie. The images, the videos, they were burned into my brain. The look on her face in those photos, it was like she was a different person. A stranger. Not the woman I had married. Not the mother of my child. The anger started to simmer, a slow burn that was more terrifying than any outburst. I closed the laptop, the images still flashing behind my eyelids. I stood there frozen, the quiet of the house pressing in on me. What now? I wasn't going to just sit here and take this. No way. I was going to take back control. She had played her game, now it was my turn. And I wasn't going to play nice. Not anymore. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, those images of Jenny flashed behind them. I felt like I was going crazy, spinning in circles. So first thing next morning, I made a call. I needed answers, cold hard facts, not just gut feelings and blurry pictures. I hired a private investigator. Some guy named Miller came recommended by a friend. Said he was good, discreet. Exactly what I needed. I met Miller in a coffee shop downtown, the kind with those fake artsy light fixtures. He was all business, sharp suit, sharper eyes. No small talk. I laid it all out. Jenny, the parties, the ex-Marine boyfriend. I need to know everything, I told him. How long has this been going on? Who's involved? What exactly is she doing at these things? Miller just nodded, scribbling in a little notepad, like he'd heard it all before. Miller didn't disappoint. He was like a bloodhound on a scent. Turns out Owen was the ringleader, the mastermind. The parties weren't just some casual get-togethers. They were full-blown events held in high-end places, rented mansions in the hills, luxury hotels downtown. The kind of places you needed a VIP pass to even get near. And Jenny, she was one of the main attractions, Miller said. Not just a participant, but a star. The thought of it made my stomach churn. The investigator sent me photos, surveillance footage. Jenny, laughing, carefree, practically glowing while I was sitting at home making sure the trash got taken out. He dug up guest lists, invitation details, and even financial records. Owen wasn't doing this for kicks. He was making bank. This wasn't just some twisted hobby, it was a damn business. Miller also found evidence of drug use, ecstasy, cocaine, the whole damn pharmacy. These weren't just parties, they were illegal operations, and Jenny was right in the middle of it all. My wife, the mother of my child. I felt this mix of rage and disgust, like I'd swallowed something poisonous. But there was something else too, a strange sense of focus. Like everything was finally coming into sharp relief. I wasn't confused anymore. I knew what I had to do. This wasn't about a broken marriage anymore. This was about justice. Or maybe revenge. The line was starting to blur. I found myself becoming obsessed with the details. Each photo, each video clip, every piece of information Miller uncovered, it was like adding fuel to a fire. I stayed up late into the night, poring over the reports, trying to piece together every part of their twisted world. It was like I was becoming a detective in my own messed up life. I knew it wasn't healthy, this dark obsession, but I couldn't stop myself. I needed to know every last thing. The investigator's findings confirmed my worst fears. My wife had been leading a double life, and it was way more depraved than I could have imagined. It wasn't just an affair. It was a whole other existence, and I was never part of it. The hurt, the betrayal, it was like a knife twisting in my gut. I started to lose sleep. I stopped eating. I couldn't focus at work. I was consumed by anger, by the need to make her pay. Miller had given me the ammunition I needed. Now it was time to plan my next move, and it wasn't going to be pretty. I spent days just stewing, the anger a constant hum in my head. I'd look at my kid playing with his Legos and feel this cold fury. How could she do this to us, to him? I knew I couldn't just confront her. Not yet. I needed a plan. Something calculated, something that would hit her where it hurt the most. And that's when I decided I'd wait for the next big party. Miller had the schedule, the whole damn thing. Turns out this wasn't just some local get-together. They called it a national gathering, some big deal event at a lakeside resort. Jenny told me she was going on a girls' trip, some bullshit weekend with friends. I just nodded, played the part of the clueless husband. Inside, I was plotting her downfall. I knew exactly what I was going to do. It was going to be poetic justice. The day of the party, I went to a shipping store. I'd carefully assembled the package. The centerpiece was a box, brightly colored with "Let's Party" printed on the lid, all bubbly and fun. Inside, it was anything but. Layered in shredded pieces were photos of us, wedding photos, vacation photos, snapshots of our supposedly happy life. On top of that, screenshots of Jenny's messages with Owen, all those dirty texts laid bare. And the final touch, the piece de resistance, a USB drive loaded with the videos from the parties, the ones Miller had provided. It was a beautiful thing, a perfect little package of destruction. I made sure the resort address was crystal clear. I paid extra for overnight delivery. I wanted that package to arrive when she was there, getting ready, thinking she was about to get down and dirty, unaware of the storm about to hit her. Then I did something unexpected. I sent her a text, acting all nonchalant. "Hope you're having fun on your girls' trip, babe, miss you." I wanted her to feel secure, relaxed, totally oblivious to the fact that her whole world was about to crumble. The next morning I woke up early, almost giddy with anticipation. I went through my daily routine with a strange calm. I made my son breakfast, took him to school the same as usual. The normalcy was a facade. Underneath, my mind was racing, calculating, ready to unleash hell. I timed my call to the police perfectly. I had all the information they needed: the location of the resort, the details about the drugs, the illegal activities. I told them about Owen and Jenny, how they had been running these parties for years. I made sure they knew this was serious, not just some wild kids having a good time. The police took it seriously, their voices crisp and professional on the phone. They organized a massive raid, and I made sure to time my call to Jenny for just as they were about to storm the place. It was almost like a movie. I wanted her to feel every bit of that panic, that dread, that despair. I wanted her to know it was me, that I had destroyed her little party world. I was the one who was pulling the strings now. As I waited for the call to go through, I could feel the adrenaline pumping through my veins, a mix of satisfaction and a strange kind of guilt. But I pushed the guilt down. She deserved this. She had done this to herself, to us. It was time for her to face the consequences. The calm I had felt earlier had vanished, replaced with a cold determination. The game was about to begin, and I wasn't going to lose. Not this time. The phone rang just as I was putting my son to bed. It was Jenny, her voice a choked sob. "What's going on?" she screamed into the phone. The background was a cacophony: shouting, sirens, a general sense of chaos. I knew they'd hit the resort, right on schedule. I stayed calm, my voice even, almost detached. "I know everything," I said, the words dripping with a kind of satisfaction I didn't expect to feel. "You and Owen are done." "No, no, you don't understand," she stammered, her voice trembling. "It's not what you think. Please, you have to help me." I could hear the desperation in her voice, a stark contrast to the cool, collected woman I'd seen in those party pictures. She begged, she pleaded, tears choking her words. "Please just help me. I swear I can explain." I let her twist for a moment, the sounds of the raid echoing on her end, the shouting, the police yelling orders, the chaos. I had planned it all. "There's nothing to explain, Jenny. I saw the pictures, the videos. I know what you've been doing." My voice was ice, sharp and cold. I reveled in the sound of her fear. She had shown no mercy. She didn't deserve any now. I was tricked, she whimpered, the desperation palpable. Owen, he made me. Please, you have to believe me, I didn't want any of this. She was trying to play the victim now, to spin her little lie. I wasn't buying it, not one bit. I had been her victim, not anymore. You made your choices, Jenny, I said, cutting her off. Now you live with them. I hung up on her, the dial tone a sweet symphony to my ears. I wanted her to feel the full weight of what she'd done, the full force of her betrayal. I didn't care about her excuses. I didn't care about her pleas. I was done with her. I turned on the news, switching to every channel until I found the breaking story. The headline screamed, "Massive drug bust at Lakeside Resort." The grainy footage showed police cars swarming the property, people being led away in handcuffs. It was like watching a movie, except this time it was my life. Jenny's face was briefly visible, eyes wide with fear, her face contorted in panic. It was a stark difference from the carefree woman in the party photos. The news reports went on, detailing the extent of the drug operation, the elaborate network of party organizers, the lavishness of the events. They called it one of the biggest busts of its kind. Names were named, and yes, Jenny's name was all over the news, plastered on the internet, in every digital paper. The media painted a picture of Jenny that felt both familiar and alien. The double life she had lived was now open for everyone to see. I watched the coverage, a strange sense of detachment washing over me. The adrenaline was starting to wear off, replaced by a kind of numbness. I felt strangely empty, like a balloon that had been popped. My life had just been ripped apart, and it was happening all over again on TV. I got a text from my lawyer, confirming everything. Jenny had been arrested along with Owen and dozens of others. She was being charged with drug possession and distribution, among other things. Owen, as the organizer, was facing even harsher charges. Their lives were over, just like they'd ruined mine. It wasn't like I felt any joy about that. I just knew that this was justice. At least, that is what I was telling myself. I was bombarded with calls and texts, friends, family, acquaintances. Everyone wanted to know what happened, wanted to get the scoop, wanted to hear my side. I shut them all out, wanting to be alone with my thoughts. It was too much. My head was spinning. I walked into my son's room and watched him asleep. He looked so peaceful. I decided right there and then that all I had to do was be the best father for him. That was all I had left. The house was too quiet. The absence of Jenny's presence was deafening. I went out to the backyard and stared at the fence, the same picket fence that represented my dream. All I could feel was emptiness. My carefully constructed life had been nothing but a lie. Now I had to start over, but I didn't have a choice. I had a son and I was going to protect him. No matter what. My son was all that mattered now. I filed for divorce immediately. No hesitation, no second thoughts. I wasn't going to waste another minute on her. My lawyer handled it all efficiently, dispassionately. I had told him I wanted it to be done as quickly and cleanly as possible. He understood. There was no talk about reconciliation. There were no discussions. It was over. Jenny tried to call me, pleaded with me through my lawyer, said she was tricked into those parties, that she'd change, that she'd be a good wife again. I ignored her. I didn't want to hear it. I'd already seen her truth, and no amount of begging was going to change that. I knew that I had made the right decision. I could not live with what she had done. I did speak to her parents, though. They were devastated, shocked, almost beyond words. They'd always thought of Jenny as their sweet girl, their little angel. The news had shattered their world. I laid it all out for them. The photos, the videos, the drug use, the whole sordid mess. They were sickened, disgusted. They told me they wanted nothing to do with her. It was as if she was dead to them. They were just as betrayed by Jenny's actions. I made it clear I was taking full custody of my son. No discussion there either. Jenny's lawyer tried to argue, but I was resolute. She had given up her right to be a mother when she made her choices. She was a drug addict, a cheat, a liar. There was no world that she would raise my child. My son was mine. She didn't fight me on it, not really. She was too broken, too defeated. Like her spirit had been crushed. I saw her eyes, empty and lifeless. She had given up. Owen didn't fare any better. His wife left him the second the news broke, took their son and moved out of state. He lost his job, his reputation, everything. He was drowning in legal fees, facing years in prison. His little empire had crumbled and he was being dragged down with it. The parties were over, and so was his life as he knew it. Karma, I thought. I focused on my son, on being the best dad I could be. I took him to school, to soccer practice, to the park. I read him bedtime stories, made him his favorite dinners. I tried to create a sense of normalcy in our lives, a safe harbor in the storm. He was my priority, the reason I was breathing. He needed me to be strong, to be there for him, and that is exactly what I was going to do. Work became a welcome distraction. I buried myself in projects, worked late, volunteered for everything. It was an escape, a way to avoid the thoughts that haunted me. I was building something. I was not going to be a victim. I was going to be a survivor. I started going to the gym, lifting weights, pushing my body to its limits. It was a way to channel my anger, to release the tension that had been building up inside of me. I was getting stronger, not just physically, but mentally too. Jenny's betrayal had shattered me, no doubt about that, but it also had made me stronger. It had stripped away the illusions, the comfortable lies I had been living. I realized that I didn't need her or anyone like her in my life. I could do this on my own. I could be happy on my own. I was moving on. I was determined to create a new life, a better life. One where I was happy, not because of anyone else, but because of myself. And my son, he was my reason. He was my purpose, and I wasn't going to fail him. A few months later, I visited Jenny in jail. It was a sterile, bleak place, the air thick with despair. They led me to a small room with a metal table and a couple of hard plastic chairs. Jenny was brought in a few minutes later. She looked like a ghost of her former self, pale, thin, her eyes sunken and lifeless. The vibrant, confident woman from those party photos was gone. This was a shadow of who she used to be. She stared at me, a flicker of something in her eyes, regret maybe. It didn't matter. I was beyond caring. I was there to do one thing and one thing only. I handed her the divorce papers, the official documents that severed all ties between us. She looked at them, a slight tremor in her hands. "I don't want this," she whispered, her voice raspy. "Please don't do this." "You made your choices, Jenny," I said, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. "Now you have to live with them." I wasn't here to argue. I wasn't here to negotiate. I was here to finalize the end of our marriage. There was nothing left between us. There never would be again. She begged me to reconsider, said she was sorry, said she'd change. It was all empty words, meaningless platitudes. I had heard enough of her lies. I'd seen enough of her betrayals. You destroyed our life, I said, the words hitting her like a punch. You shattered our family. You are responsible for everything. No more excuses. She looked down, tears silently streaming down her face. I had no sympathy left. The woman I had loved, the woman I had married, she was gone. This shell of a person before me was nothing but a stranger. I watched her sign the papers, the pen scratching against the paper, the only sound in the room. It was over. I had my freedom. As I walked out of the jail, the heavy metal door clanging shut behind me, I felt this strange sense of closure. Not happiness, not exactly, but a kind of peace. It was over. Jenny and Owen had gotten what they deserved. Their lives were ruined and they had no one to blame but themselves. I had delivered justice. Maybe not the way the law had intended, but I did my part. I walked to my car, the sun warm on my skin. I took a deep breath, the first real breath I had taken in months. I was free from the lies, free from the betrayal, free from her. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was mine. I had a son to raise, a life to rebuild. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of hope. I knew that the road ahead would be long and hard, but I was ready. I was ready to move on, to face the future, and to make a life that was worth living. And nothing was going to stop me.